Hey guys, this is Larry Hagman with the Good Dad Project podcast, and today we have an awesome guest for you. Today, Sean and I have a conversation with Jason Mackenzie, who is the founder of the Book of Open. Jason shares several life-altering events in his life that has shaped the man and father he is today. Jason has overcome so much in his life. 6 years ago, Jason's wife took her own life after battling a lifetime of bipolar disorder. Jason was left to raise his two daughters, who were only 5 and 6 years old at the time. Since that tragedy, Jason has found a new purpose in life. I got to tell you guys, this podcast is extremely inspiring. Also, if you're not a part of our Dad Edge group on Facebook, make sure you guys check that out. Search Dad Edge on the Facebook groups and join the 1,000 other fathers who are in that group. Find that group on Facebook and request entry. Finally, one quick, exciting update on my book, The Dad's Edge. In about a month from now, The Dad Edge will actually have an audiobook platform that will be available on Amazon, Audible, and iTunes. So watch out for that. For all the show notes and to connect with Jason, go to gooddadproject.com/56 for this episode. Sit back, relax, and enjoy. We are men. We are warriors. We are dads. Dads with a purpose. Dads with an edge. We sharpen our skills so we can show up best for others. We have one shot in life to be a dad. Why not make it epic? What's up, everybody? It's Larry Hagman with the Good Dad Project podcast. Hope you guys are doing well, having an awesome week. Here we are at episode 56. And in studio laughing is Mr. Sean Stevenson. What's up, man?
Hey, what's up? How you doing, man?
I'm doing good. I got a good night's sleep.
I would hope so. I would hope so. It helps for sure.
It does, man. The past 2 weeks have been enlightening ever since we did your episode on Sleep Smarter. So it's been awesome.
Awesome, man. Glad to hear that. And glad to hear that we're at 56, aka
56.
aka 56. For those who don't understand Larry's slang.
That's right.
It's a really amazing process. We're building up. We can smell 100. We smell it. Now it's distant. We got to use our daredevil senses, but it's getting close. And we've got some amazing shows lined up for you guys today, but none more amazing than the one that we've got today.
That's right, man. Today, I think, is a show that's going to get about as authentic as you can get. If I look at even past guests, I know we just had George Bryant on, which, gosh, man, that was just an intense, and very unexpected episode. The level of authenticity and rawness that guy shared about his life, I mean, was just incredible. And today, I have a feeling we're gonna go right down that exact same path.
Yeah, it's going to be amazing. Looking forward to it. Before we get to the show, guys, give a quick shout out to our show sponsor, Thriving Financial.
Yeah, guys, Brian McGraw is our show sponsor. He is a financial advisor for Thriving Financial. We would love for you guys to support him as much as he supports us. And Brian gives top-notch service. He is a financial planner. He can help you with 529s. I have 4 kids, so God knows I need all the help I can get to put these kids through college. I have no idea how I'm going to do it, but I know I need guidance, which is why I work with Brian. So guys, if you want to get in touch with Brian, if you have any questions, or if you just want to shoot him a quick email just saying, hey, thanks for supporting the Good Dad Project, I know he would really appreciate that. Go to gooddadproject.com/podcast. On the right-hand side, you will see a Thrivent banner. You can also go to this particular show, which is gooddadproject.com/56, and click on that banner, get in touch with Brian. He is the utmost integrity when it comes to service, and he will work just fantastic with you.
Yeah, and he's a great dresser.
He is. Wears a bow tie everywhere.
He's very dapper. So yeah, guys, definitely check them out. And wow, today's show, really excited about it. We're going to dive in and talk. I mean, what this is going to bring up for all of us is our stories, and how our stories really impact the way that we perceive reality and the choices that we make. And ultimately, who has the pen in their hand, and how things can change and how things can be. We can write a brand new story, and we have to understand that no matter what we've gone through, there's always opportunity for change. For a lot of us, a lot of the dads listening, we've been through some tremendous hardships, and I said hard shifts. We've been through some tremendous, and that, by the way, working too, guys. I worked at a casino when I was in college, whole nother story, but some tremendous hardships that we often don't talk about. We suppress these stories. We we skate around them. We don't share. And that's what this is really about, because you don't need to carry that burden. We need to open up more, share where we're coming from. And I promise you, it's actually going to connect people with you even more. So, but before we get to our guests, really quickly, let's do this iTunes review of the week.
Yeah, so we are up to almost 130 five-star reviews.
Man, that is quick.
It's
That's
awesome.
Incredible.
It is
Incredible.
awesome, man. And thank you guys so much for leaving these reviews. They obviously help us in the ranks with iTunes. And the cool thing, and I think Sean will agree with me on this one, is the authenticity behind these reviews. I mean, they aren't just like, great show. It's, these guys go into detail.
Keep it up.
Yeah. Awesome.
Pat on the back.
So this one is from Mark Lemaster, and the title is All Dads Should Subscribe to the Good Dad Project podcast. And here's what he says. Larry and Sean are talking about all things that are relevant to us dads. I was drawn in not only by the title of the podcast, but also because of the guests that they are bringing in. I listened to episode 42 with Dan Miller because I've been following 48 Days for years. I then listened to episode 44 with Pat Flynn because I just read his book. These guys are talking with the real big guys and we can always learn so much from. My favorite part of the podcast is I'm able to walk away with actionable items from every episode to improve myself. Thank you, Larry. Thank you, Sean, for serving us dads in such a meaningful and practical way. Mark Lemaster.
Wow, man. Thank you so much. And thanks for the respect and the admiration and the props, because some of these guys, they're huge. Let's be honest about it. Talking with Dan Miller is just remarkable and something I would have never thought that I would be able to do many years ago. And so now we're able to bring these guys to you guys and get you connected with that kind of insider information. And it's just been amazing. And thank you guys seriously for the acknowledgement. It means a lot to us. On that note, Larry, let's get to our special guest.
As Sean said, we have had some just amazing guests on this show and some well-known guests on this show. But I don't know if many people might have ever heard of our guest today, but his story is unbelievable. He has a popular blog, and he's got quite a story, and I know he is now working on a book. He actually just submitted a proposal to a publisher to tell his story. And to date, I think there's going to be very few men who come on our show with the amount of authenticity that this gentleman brings. So I'm going to introduce Jason Mackenzie, who is a husband and a dad of 2 daughters. His first wife and biological mother of his daughters committed suicide after a 6-year struggle with bipolar disorder. Jason raised his girls throughout this period, but struggled to cope and turned to alcohol to escape from the daily pain of watching his wife die slowly. Through the love and encouragement of his current wife, he has freed himself from alcohol and has completely changed his life. So it's with my great honor and my pleasure to introduce Jason Mackenzie, who runs a website called The Book of Open. He's also known as From Drunk to Monk. So it's my pleasure to introduce Jason Mackenzie. How you doing, man?
I am doing fantastic, and it was such an honor to be on your show, guys. And I just wanted to say, I found out 2 hours ago that the book publisher accepted my proposal. So this has been a great day.
Yes. Dude, that's awesome.
Oh, I'm pumped. I am so pumped.
So I know this is not even planned in our show, but some of the best material comes from the unplanned stuff. But so this was a surprise to me. You didn't tell us this before the show, but can you give us the main gist of the book? Are you allowed to give us any detail?
Yeah, so I decided, since I've discovered the power of vulnerability, right, to connect us and change our lives, I decided that partly inspired by you, Larry, actually, I wanted to write a book targeted towards dads and teach them about the power of vulnerability to make them better husbands and fathers and leaders and fitter and just happier and healthier.
That's awesome. It's really come from your own story and your own struggle, which I have found too, I mean, writing The Dad's Edge, it's really our own testimony and our own struggles that's how we as men really relate to each other. But, so that's all. Congratulations. Number
Thank
one,
you so
first
much.
and
Yes.
foremost, congratulations.
Pat on the back.
Thank you.
Keep it going. No, seriously, man, this is literally like I could not help but clap. I know what that means, and I know the work that goes into even creating a proposal,
Yeah.
So huge props to you, man, and the best of everything coming your way to make it an incredible experience.
Thank you.
So we'll see you on Oprah here, I'm sure, soon then, because your story is just too good, and that's why we want to have you on, because you and I got connected a few months ago, and we've had some conversations, and Jason, and we'll put a link in the show notes as well to a blog that Jason wrote in on our site. It was actually called Drunk to Monk, but it was just a fantastic story. It was shared all over Facebook. I know moms read it because I got a few emails asking me if you were single, and but it's, why don't you tell us about your background and what happened with your wife? And I know there was some time in there that it was hard for you to deal with it, and you chose to you had some struggles with alcohol, but you've been alcohol free now for quite some time. So can you give us some background on all that?
Yeah, I'd be happy to. So I had a pretty normal upbringing. My dad was in the military. My mom stayed home. We got to travel around. I lived in Europe for a while. I had great parents. My dad worked a second job so we could play hockey. So they were always there, and no issues at all. So I guess that's what I wanted for myself, and that's what I set out towards to build for myself. I wanted the white picket fence, 2 kids, a beautiful wife, and that's basically what my target was, and I was working towards it. I was climbing the corporate ladder. We had a house with a pool. I mean, this was my dream, and I was making it happen. And then it almost overnight, it turned into a nightmare. So my wife and the mother of my children was diagnosed with bipolar disorder. And for the audience that doesn't know what that is, it's also known as manic depression. And it's characterized by wild mood swings from the depths of depression, like crushing depression that you almost can't even imagine, to episodes of mania where people do the wildest, most risky, just out of control behavior, and they abuse themselves and make terrible choices that unfortunately have very real consequences. And so she was a police officer, actually, right? So we went from this perfect life to the next 6 years. I literally watched her die. I didn't know I was watching her die until the end, but that's what was happening. And it was a long, slow descent into just, ultimate death, I guess. And during that time, I mean, we're talking everything from homeless shelters. She lived in a homeless shelter to arbitrarily, just randomly moving away for 5 months, 3 hours away, leaving me with the kids, to being institutionalized and having electroshock therapy, which I thought that was a relic from like 1950s psychiatry, but it's still a thing, and it erases your short-term memory, and it's only used in desperate situations where people are suicidal. Bankrupt, very near bankruptcy, just nonstop chaos. And then near the end, we separated right near the end. Then it was lawyers and, being terrified of her taking the kids away from me, and being a single dad. The kids were always with me, and I was a single dad, and during that time, it's really, your character's really tested during that time, and you find out what you're made of. And I did some things during those 6 years. I did a lot of things I was very proud of, and I did some things that I am not proud of at all. I don't regret them. They happened, and they formed the basis of who I am today. But yeah, it really tests your mettle. So one of the things that happened is I turned to alcohol, as you alluded to in the introduction. And I'm telling you, when you're alone in the wintertime, your wife is 3 hours away, your kids are 3 hours away at your parents because you're trying to work, and it's dark, and I would just sit in the house and drink myself to oblivion, right? Trying to forget, trying to process what was happening to my life, right? It's so hard to even rationalize what's happened here. You mentioned Oprah. I felt like I was the person on an episode of Oprah where when you watch it, you go, oh my God, that could never happen to me. I was that guy. So hopefully if I make it on Oprah again, it'll be for a totally different reason. But so, yeah, and that eventually led to just a relentless decline to the point where she ended up taking her own life. And I'll tell you, I'm sure this happened to other parents, and it'll happen to parents after this too, but telling your kids their mother is dead is the most horrific experience you could go through. I found out she died at midnight, and I basically sat there and stared at the clock until 8 o'clock in the morning, thinking, how am I going to tell them that their mother's dead? Just tick tock, tick tock. And
How old were your kids at the time?
they were 6, and my younger daughter had just turned 5. Actually, my wife will have been dead 6 years tomorrow, actually. And my 5-year-old, I mean, to show you the kind of, the understanding of a 5-year-old, the first thing she asked me when I told her that their mother had passed away was, when is she coming back? Right. So, I mean, never, So yeah, that's kind of the backstory. And then since then, I've built a new life for myself, and I've left alcohol behind, thank God. And it's just totally changed my life. And here we are.
That is quite a story. So let me ask you this. You're going through this roller coaster ride, living and being married to someone who has, severe case of bipolar. When did the alcohol show up?
I think I always had tendencies, like I would go long periods of time without drinking, but then I was a binge drinker too. So I think that it was always there. I drank when I was a teenager. So I think that perhaps if my life had unfolded like I expected it to, maybe I could have kept it in check to a better degree. But it was during the worst times, probably 2006, when she moved out of the house and I was left alone, and it probably became bad then. And then I just continued to drink. I continued to drink after she died for all kinds of different reasons, that I see so clearly now. But I just wasn't able to see it at the time. I thought that, oh my God, I've been through this nightmare. And you know what? I'm a good dad. I'm fit, this, that, and the other thing. And I've been through hell. No one is going to tell me I can't drink. Forget it. I've earned it. That starts to wear thin 4 years later. That might be a plausible excuse, for a brief period of time after, but 4 years later, that starts to wear pretty thin. And,
what kind of results was that having in your life at the time, personally, like with your kids, with anything else outside of that kind of lonely time where you were drinking?
It was having results where I was crippling my emotional and spiritual development. And that's, I think, what the most devastating thing was. I mean, I wasn't getting drunk all day long. I was mostly waiting till after the kids went to bed. And then, I would basically drink myself to oblivion, as I was saying. But as the more time passes, the more clarity I'm able to look back on it with and say, oh my God, it was crippling me spiritually and emotionally.
Yeah. So one of the reasons, Jason, we want to have you on is because this is our 56th episode, right? Mm-hmm. And Sean and I have done a variety of different shows. We've had a variety of different guests. And if you look at our shows, from a 30,000-foot view, it's strategies and it's tips and it's things that you can implement that are going to improve your daily life, and things that are fairly simple. One of the things that we haven't really touched on very much, and that's why we really want you to talk about it, is what happens when all hell breaks loose? What happens when the big things happen? How do people get through the life-altering events, that can totally spin our entire world into a different orbit? And how can men who are going through something like you or will in the future then somehow turn that all around to an entire 360 and be the man you are today, who you're now remarried and you have a great life and you're getting ready to write a book and do all these wonderful things when you could have easily just kept going down that same path that you were headed to? So that's really, I think, what today's show is all about.
Yeah. So I guess what happened to me was I had this persona that I created about myself. I'm a type A, I'm a leader, don't really feel this broad range of emotions. And that served a purpose for me when things were in total chaos around me, because I said, I had it together, right? I wasn't affected by the wild, by the normal emotional mood swings that most people were. So I was able to just kind of hunker down, hide behind that persona, and get through every day. And it's funny, I would have these moments where this persona would crack. I can remember one time being at the grocery store, for example, and the lady behind me said, "Oh, how much are those strawberries?" And I said, I looked at her and I just stared at her. And she said, "Excuse me, how much are the strawberries?" And I said, "I'm sorry, my wife is bipolar and I don't know what I don't know." how much the strawberries are. So the way I looked at that was I looked at that as weakness, like a crack in the dam that needed to be plugged right away, or else I felt like if I let myself experience those moments, I was going to go right down the drain. And then what was going to happen to my kids and what was going to happen to my wife. So I just blocked that all out. And it was really self-preservation, but it was misguided self-preservation, because what I should have done and what I know now is I should have looked at that to say, I need help. I need to reach out to people. I need to tell people how I'm feeling. So what that did was that became the person that I thought I was. And it also became the person that I thought other people wanted me to be. So I started really acting that out for a long time. And it was harder than it needed to be. And I think one of the reasons I drank was to cope with that internal conflict of trying to be this person that I wasn't. And finally, it was actually through the love and support and, I guess increasing pressure from my new wife, that I realized, oh my God, this isn't me at all. This is not me. And when I finally stopped drinking, that was what allowed me to see with clarity that I'm not that person. I'm a person who's open, who does feel this full range of human emotions. And now I'm in my 40s and I have to learn how to deal with it. But but instead of trying to hide from it, I embrace it. And some days are crappy days, right? So instead of trying to drink them away, I don't know, revel in the suck, I guess, and try to glean whatever lessons there are from them, right? So I think to maybe the short answer to your question is, if it wasn't for my wife, I don't know how I would have seen what I see now. But it's been now I think, okay, this lesson is huge. I see guys doing the same thing all around me. And that's why it's so important to me to get this message out, because maybe they don't have a spouse that's going to help them. So maybe I can be that person.
Yeah. So what I'm hearing is we need to lean on other people when when the wheels fall off, when the world breaks down. We can't just internalize this stuff and just keep it in and try to figure it out. Like you said, the cracks in the dam are going to happen, and we're just going, oh, I've got the pack of gum right here. I go plug it up. It's like, no, we need to talk to somebody who actually can help with patching this thing up. And so for you, you had the miracle, in essence, of the right woman coming along. So for some of us, that could be in that form. For others, it could be in the form of someone at the church. It could be the form of somebody in your community, a family member, a friend, some professional help. So what was it that actually kind of tipped the scales for you and helped you to kind of open up and figure this stuff out? I think a lot of people want to know this. And did your wife do something in particular, or were you just ready? What helped to turn this situation around?
So that's a great question, and one I've thought about a lot. So what she did for me was she showed me what was possible, in the sense that I was stagnant. Just, I had convinced myself that I was good enough, and this is as good as I needed to be, which is those words are the worst words I can utter, is that I'm good enough. But she was continually evolving. She was doing new things. She was building a community. She was, taking different courses, doing all these things. And I could see a gap developing between us. And I could see, like, it doesn't take, if I extrapolate this to the future, this gap may get to the point where it can no longer be bridged. And then, oh my God, what is that going to mean for me? She kind of helped me see, and again, it was a painful process, that, I needed to change. And I had this moment of clarity one morning, 2:00 in the morning. I woke up after trying to quit drinking a million times and said, I just knew I was done drinking. But then what happened after that? I've often wondered, how do I replicate that situation? But what happened after that was I started thinking, okay, wait a second here. If I can quit this, then there is nothing that I cannot do, because I had convinced myself that this goal of stopping drinking was impossible. So then I started thinking, there's got to be other people that are going through this. And what I decided to do was stop being scared about talking about it, right? Ultimately, you have to take a leap of faith and say, okay, I'm going to talk about what has happened to me, and I want to help other people. And I don't know, I stopped being scared, because I knew that my story would resonate with people. And I think I had spent so long being afraid of being judged, or for the person that in my heart I knew that I was. What if people don't like me? And I guess overcoming drinking especially helped me realize that maybe I am worth loving. I just started to believe that somehow. I don't know what the the steps in the process are. But what I want to tell people is that the fear you have in your mind is all made up. It's all made up, right? So if we just if we can accept the fact that if we let down our guard, I always use a quote: when we let down our shields, we become invincible, right? So if you let down your guard and you show your authentic self, and you talk about things that are real, struggles you face, you're not going to believe the connections that you make, the people that you the people that you meet, the people that you help. It's just unbelievable, and we just need to stop being scared.
So I want to make a quick comment here, because all three of us on this interview, Sean, Jason, myself, we all had these pivotal points in our life where we decided enough's enough. I'm tired of living this way. I'm going to do something different. Sean, for you, I've heard your story a lot, and when you were dealing with your back issues and this debilitating problem with your back, and I remember your story of one night you were laying in bed and you were just like, I'm done. I'm going to heal myself. I think you even maybe said that outside. If I'm butchering this story, let me know, but it was something along those lines, right?
Yeah, that's definitely pretty close. So yeah, I was sitting there on the edge of my bed looking at a pill bottle tell me to sleep, because this pain that I've been in every day, every waking moment kept me up at night, just even changing positions. It was about a week prior to this moment that I saw the last physician out of the, 4 to 5 that I saw. And they said the same thing, there's nothing you can do about this. I'm really sorry. It's just, kind of like you got a bad hand and you're going to have to deal with this. I'm sorry. And I was tired of it. I was tired of hearing I was sorry. I was tired of putting my stock into other people, giving me basically in a weird way, a death sentence, for the life that I really wanted. And I decided to, and a part of this is what Jason's been talking about, but I decided that no matter what, come what may, I'm going to make some changes. I'm going to make progress. I'm going to do whatever I can do to improve my conditions, And so for me, it was learning everything that I could about health and the human body, which I was completely ignorant in. I wanted to do something I didn't know about. And so I went to people who knew. And that could be in the form of books, that can be in the form of videos. And I was listening to this was the early days of audio podcasts and these different summits I would sign up for. And I was just consuming myself. I've got, even today, my son mentioned this, but I've got just stacks and stacks of notebooks and papers of just taking notes and just soaking all that information in. But ultimately, things didn't change really and go to that ultimate level until I started to share my story, until I started to talk about it, until I started to bring other people in and who can help me with the mission of sharing my story as well, And so for me, that did show up in the form of my mother-in-law, of my wife, so many different friends over the years. That is kind of the ultimate solution here, guys, is sharing, talking about your story, sharing your experience, because that's going to bond you with other people, but also that's going to give other people hope. And there's going to be some strategies in there that you probably don't even know about until you can share it and get those other perspectives, and also kind of flesh out your own strategies, because ultimately what's going to make us happy is bringing some life and some insight into the lives of other people.
I couldn't agree more. I mean, and that's exactly where the Good Dad Project started.
Yes.
It started in the darkest place probably of my life, and where it started out of a place when I spanked my son, my 3-year-old son. And I had lived for the past 5 years in the shoes of a struggling father and husband, and I was just terrible at it. And I finally, I don't know what it was, but I just clicked that I'm done. I'm done living this way. I'm going to open myself, number one, to share how I'm struggling, and I'm going to open myself up to learn how to get through it. And that's exactly how the Good Dad Project started, just exactly how the Book of Open has started. But what I can tell you, Jason, and I know Sean will agree with me, is the biggest struggle for us is it doesn't matter if you're a father or not. Biggest struggle for a man is asking for help or becoming somewhat transparent, because we view that as weakness. We view even reaching out, like for instance, Sean's one of my best friends, and I can tell you without a shadow of a doubt, even though he and I talk about this stuff, we write about this stuff, blog about it, when I am at the absolute brink, that's when I'll text Sean and be like, can we please meet for coffee? I'm dealing with some crap here. But it has to get to that point for me where I can't tolerate it anymore. So what kind of advice would you have for men out there who are struggling with that, where they feel trapped and they're on their own island, and maybe everything within them is screaming from the rooftops to do something different, but they view that doing something different as weakness?
Yeah, I guess my advice would be that we are stronger together, right? That's a principle I think that applies to all of us equally. So I think I guess my other advice would be, I used to look at things in terms of scarcity all the time, instead of abundance, right? So I would look at a course of action, whether it was quitting drinking or trying something new, and I would think, okay, here's all the things that can go wrong with this particular course of action. And therefore, I am going to basically handcuff myself. I'm going to scare myself so much, like whether it was quitting drinking, the scarcity mindset is, oh my God, are my friends going to like me? Am I going to be able to socialize? Whatever, all these things that you associate drinking with, to the point where you build up the fear, or, reaching out. So if I tell my wife how I actually feel, or I tell my friends how I actually feel, how much I hate what I am doing, and I fail, then what? So if I never say a word to anybody, then nobody's going to know how bad I'm struggling, even though, of course, they can all see it. But in my mind, if I don't put it out there, then I'm less accountable. I'm only accountable to myself. And, in the mind of somebody that's drinking, that's not really good enough, right? Typically. So what I always tell people is, think of things in terms of the abundance that a different choice would create. Ask yourself, what would this choice create? What would be the worst thing that could happen if I reached out and asked for help? Or if I took a risk, or if I pivoted in my life, or, and try to imagine the feeling and the sounds and the smell of what that would look like, right? When you start to do that, it becomes a lot less scary. It becomes more real. So yeah, to me, the scarcity versus abundance mindset is absolutely critical.
Yeah, I've heard Sean talk about this a lot on previous shows, and I would love to get his insight, because we just had Vaughn Kohler on not too long ago, who is the co-host of the MFCEO project, and they have this real interesting way, a statement that they kind of live by. It's not, what's the risk of not taking this action, versus like, what could I lose? Like, what am I risking not gaining by not making this step? And I know Sean's got some insight on that as well.
Yeah. Oh my goodness, man. As men, it's another complicated situation in our world today, where there's so much programmed into us and how we're supposed to be. But we have this perpetual feeling of lack, like we have to accumulate this in order to be successful. We have to do this thing. We have to get our kids into this school, all of these different ideas. But in reality, abundance is different for everybody, but there are those same levels. It's just different expressions of that, and so we want to have an abundance mindset in every area, with your health, your finances, your career, your family, your spirituality. We have to fill up all those buckets, but for us, it's all different. Some of us can be, like into anime, like weird Japanese cartoons, right? And then others of us are just like, I'm strictly on like Family Guy, right? Hit it, cue Larry.
I just have a question about Family Guy. What time does it come on tonight?
Nice.
So please understand, it's like there's different variations out there that make us all happy. And so chasing after someone else's dreams isn't your dream. So this speaks to something called borrowed desires, right? We want to have that abundance mindset, but with things that are for us. And because it's gonna light you up. Like your core is gonna feel good about it, not like this deprivation. I don't have this thing and I'm never gonna get it. But it's more so, wow, I really want that thing. That is what is I want it to be a part of my life, and I aspire towards. And you're inspired by it instead of being in fear about it. That's a good kind of internal marker of whether or not something is for you. So we want to tune into that and stop living from this place of lack. I don't have it. Because here's this interesting thing about life is that no matter what our spirituality is, our religion, how this whole thing operates, it tends to really feed you and deliver you this precise thing that you are carrying around in your consciousness. So if you're constantly operating from this place of, I don't have it, I don't have it, I don't have this, I don't have that, the entire universe is responding in accordance. Like, no, you don't have it. You don't have it. No, you don't. It's just going to keep on feeding you that data. And you get in this perpetual darkness starts to manifest. And so simply switching over and focusing on the things that we do have and being grateful for those things. Gratitude is so powerful, but we don't practice it enough. We don't. It's a practice. It's easy to get jaded. As Jason was talking about, his life, the whole picket fence, the family, like he had all this stuff, right? But we can get jaded and we can miss out on actually appreciating the good things that we have until we lose them. And Jason has an amazing story about what that can do to us and how do we turn the corner because, and I'm going to pass this over to Jason right now. How do you feel right now in your life? What's gratitude look like in the life that you're living today?
Oh man, that was well said, first of all. And gratitude means to me, I actually write in a gratitude journal every single morning. I've been doing that for about a year, and it has changed my life. It's part of a morning routine that I have, but just taking the time to celebrate the things in my life that I have to be grateful for. Man, there's so much. It feels like I never write about the same thing twice. And I think gratitude also means being grateful, even for the bad things that happen, being grateful for the lessons they contain to shape a better future, right? So if I look at, I'll give you a quick little story here to tell you what I'm talking about, but we were at the dinner table the other night. My wife said something, and as all husbands, I'm not perfect, and I may have rolled my eyes at her. And so my 12-year-old daughter said, she got upset by this and goes, "You guys are always grumpy with each other." And I said, "Oh my, come on. We're like the least grumpy people in the world." So, but she was 12 and that was her view of the thing. So anyways, so we had a conversation with her about what love looks like, how love doesn't really necessarily look like what a 12-year-old thinks it looks like, right? But anyway, she was unsatisfied with the conversation. So I went up to talk to both of them after. I didn't want to leave it like this. And I sat them down on their bed and I said, "I want to talk to you about what my love for Mummy looks like." And I said, if Mummy helped me see that what I was doing with alcohol was crippling my ability to be my best me. She helped me see that, okay? She helped me see things in terms of possibilities instead of seeing why things can't be done. She helped me do that. She came into our lives and became your mom. I get emotional here. After Mummy in heaven passed away. That is the greatest gift that anybody could ever give another human being. That's what love is, okay? So when you see me maybe roll my eyes at her, that's irrelevant almost. It's insignificant. So when I talk about gratitude, if I hadn't had those experiences, I would not have had the chance to frame them in a way that I think will create a better future for my kids. So I'm grateful.
So Jason, thank you for number one, thank you for sharing everything you have. To be honest with you, I don't know how you've kept your composure. I mean, it's quite a tough story. Gratitude is such a powerful thing in our lives, something that Sean and I both highly believe in. We talk about a lot on the show. I actually have the same routine you do with my kids, which I get the kids involved, which we write down 3 things that we're grateful for every morning before breakfast. And then at night, we talk about the highlights. We do one other exercise called eradicating regret from our life, which is what's the lowest point of your day? And instead of looking at it at a low point, what did you learn from it? Which I heard you say that. What's the lesson I can get from this? I want to ask you one more question, then we'll wrap up with one final question that Sean always likes to ask all of our guests. But looking at your life and the amount of transparency that you put out there and the fact that you have found strength in that through that transparency, is there other people around you that support you in this besides your wife? One of the things that Sean and I, and the reason I ask you this, because one of the things that Sean and I talk about on this show a lot, and I actually have a whole chapter in my book dedicated to this, is surround yourself with people who are going to support you, help you, push you forward versus drag you down. So besides your wife, do you have a strong circle of friends that you can go to in the time of need?
Yes, and it's growing all the time, right? So I wouldn't say I have a huge social circle, but the people that I have in my life are close to me, people that I would feel completely comfortable being open and asking for help from. But having said that, openness and vulnerability begets connections, and I'm building more all the time. And I find too that, the more I build these connections, the more time I spend each day talking about things that are positive and talking about things that are, world changing and life changing and all of that kind of stuff. So even the group of friends that I had before, they're still my friends, but we talk about completely different things now, right? Yeah. So whereas before I might not have been willing to do that, or like you were saying earlier, I might have done that if it was like totally desperate, right? Like stopping in because I was driving back from trying to find my wife and so tired I couldn't sleep. So tired I couldn't stay on the road and needed somewhere to stay. I'm not that person now. I would reach out much, much sooner than that.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, this has been enlightening, and thank you so much, Jason. One quick question to wrap things up. What's one parting piece of wisdom that you can share with everybody on how to be a good dad?
I would say lead a life of service to others and be open to the opportunities, to embracing the opportunities that will create for you, because your life could end up taking a completely different trajectory when you live a life of service to others. And that can be super uncomfortable, but man, what a lesson for your kids. My kids are watching me right now go from the standard corporate world to trying to pivot almost 180 degrees, and they're living the whole thing through. I know Larry's kind of going through the same thing right now. And that's what I want that's what I want to teach them, right? So yeah, be of service to others.
It's crazy that, the timing of this, because 2 episodes ago, we did an interview with Sean on Sleep Smarter. And one of my questions to him is where did this, you're in the health space, where did this book even come from? And the first thing that he answered was, it came out of service and out of help. I wanted to help other people improve their lives. And what better way to do it than sleep? And the way you're doing it is through sharing your struggles with losing your wife, with the common struggles of men out there as well. Your struggles with alcohol as well, which other men struggle with that. And how better for people to relate to you than through something like that. And as we close up the show, I want to hit one final point home, and I'm gonna bring it back to each one of you guys to comment on it. Which, as a man, when I think of transparency and vulnerability, even though we talk about it every week on every show, my default is that equals weakness. Vulnerability and transparency, I don't want to say that even to another guy, because it's viewed as weakness. So in my mind, I'm trying to process, where do you find the strength in vulnerability? And what I have found with working with dads and fathers is that if you're going to be vulnerable and transparent, you have to make it cool. Otherwise, we just don't relate to it, or we want to push it aside. So I'm gonna bounce it back to you guys. I would love for you to comment on that, because I know it's something that both of you guys value in your own lives. So I'd love to hear any feedback you have.
I guess to answer your question, I no longer even consider it as being weakness. I've seen the results way too many times of my being vulnerable and what the place of safety and that creates for people. So I see it as strength, and I think that the people that talk to me and I can convince and embrace it, I think they see it as strength too, because they're the things that have, been like a boat anchor around their neck for so long, it stops being that for them, right? So yeah, I guess I don't know if that answered your question or not, but
it totally
total
does.
strength.
Yeah,
absolutely. This is why I bounced the pass over to you, man. And so just in wrapping up, guys, there's this great quote from Chris Jamie that says, "To share your weakness is to make yourself vulnerable. To make yourself vulnerable is to show your true strength." And it really sums up what Jason represents and what he was just talking about. We've got to get out of these crazy, strange boxes that we put ourselves in, because the world is very different today, and people connect with people. And ultimately, if we're going to have the health and the financial success, the career happiness that we all aspire towards, it's going to be with and through the help of other people, because your relationships have the biggest impact on all of those things than anything else. The real relationships are the ones where people actually know you. They know your struggles, they know your fear, they know where you come from. So share those things, share those trouble spots, because it just creates a deeper bond. And also, crazy thing is, it takes this load, this huge baggage that we don't even oftentimes know that we're carrying around, that's weighing us down, off of our shoulders. So it's just a big part of us being a good dad and being the best man possible. And I want to thank you so much for coming on the show today, Jason. Larry, let's wrap it up.
So guys, if you want to connect with Jason at the Book of Open, we're going to have all his links in the show notes. To get to our show notes, go to gooddadproject.com/56 for this episode. And we'll see you guys next week on the Good Dad Project podcast. Thanks for tuning in to this week's show. And for more episodes and resources that will give you an edge, head on over to gooddadproject.com.